Welcome to the week ahead. This isn't a hype show, it's not a prediction contest, and it's definitely not a place where we try to trade every headline. Each week, we're going to step back from the noise and focus on what actually matters: the signals shaping capital, policy, and markets over the next decade, not just the next day. So think of this as your reset before the week begins. Now, this past weekend, I was out with my son, Caden, and we went to a local nursery. We actually went to the Wilsons down in Rock Hill, South Carolina. Great place if no one's ever been there before. But we wanted to pick out some flowers and some plants for the backyard. And like most kids, he was ready to move fast. You know, he wanted to grab something, check out, and get back into the cool, air-conditioned car as quickly as possible. But that's not really how it works, because as we all know, planting something, it's a process. You go pick it out. You've got to plant it. You put it in the ground, and then you've got to water it. And frankly, then you wait. You don't get flowers the same day that you put them in the ground. And that's exactly how I want us to think about this week. Now, there's a big difference between weather and flight path. Right now, the headlines feel like rough weather. Inflation looks hotter. Gas prices are up. Geopolitical tension is back in the conversation. And it feels like something must be wrong. But when you step back and look at the underlying data, the flight path hasn't really changed. So I want to focus on the signals that actually matter. First, inflation. Now, this is where I think investors are probably most likely to overreact. The headline number jumped to 3.3%, and on the surface, that gets attention. But a big part of that move came from a spike in gas prices. Now, what matters more is what's happening underneath. Core inflation, and that just strips out food and energy, came in at 0.2% increase for the second straight month. Now, that's a very different story. So yes, energy, it's in the driver's seat right now, but that doesn't mean the entire inflation picture is suddenly out of control. It may just mean we're dealing with a short-term burst of noise inside a longer trend that's still stabilizing. And that's a key point. And if that's the case, the Fed doesn't need to react to every headline. They have room to stay patient. Now, second, corporate earnings. This one gets overlooked all the time because people spend so much energy trying to guess what the Fed is going to do next that they forget what actually drives long-term returns. And it's simple. Are the businesses that you own making more money over time? And I love this point because as Q1 earnings season kicks off, the S&P 500 is expected to grow profits by about 16%. Now, if that happens, that would make it the strongest reporting period in 4 years. That matters because when businesses are growing their bottom lines at a double-digit pace, short-term noise around interest rates, really it becomes secondary. Markets can get emotional, but businesses still matter. Third, sentiment. Consumer sentiment has dropped sharply. Now, people feel the pressure from higher gas prices. I feel it. We all feel it. We're feeling stretched, right? And when that happens, it's easy to jump to the worst conclusion, that something in the system must be breaking. Now, I don't think that's what we're seeing. The U.S. economy today is structurally more resilient than it used to be. We use significantly less oil to generate growth than we did decades ago. So yes, higher energy prices hurt, but the system itself, and this is the key point, the system itself is not as fragile as it once was. Now, this is what I actually call the Caden turbulence test. I talked about this a couple podcast episodes ago when we went on a trip to Florida and we were flying, and I was freaking out and Caden was laughing. But just because the plane is shaking, it doesn't mean the system is breaking. It may just mean that we're flying through some weather. So what should we watch this week? bank earnings. We've got JP Morgan, Wells, all the big names, right? Citigroup, Goldman Sachs. They're reporting, and these reports matter because they give us a real look at the financial backbone of the economy. What's the consumer looking like? Is the consumer holding up? Credit conditions, are we still stable? And are businesses still spending? If those numbers come in solid, it's going to reinforce the idea that the system underneath is still working. So what does all of this mean for you and for me as investors? It means your job this week, it's probably not to react to every headline. Shocker. I know you guys are all surprised I'm saying that, but we don't react to every headline. It means a spike in gas prices. It's not the same as a long-term inflation break moving higher. It means weak sentiment is not the same thing as economic collapse. And it also means if the businesses that you and I own, aka our stocks, are still growing and the system is still functioning, then short-term volatility should be handled with perspective, not panic. So just like planting those flowers with Caden this past weekend, you don't dig them up the next day because you don't see results yet, right? You've got to give it time. We have to have consistency and really let the process work. Volatility is often just information. It's not always an instruction to act. So stay focused on what actually matters. Let's watch the underlying trends, stay disciplined, keep a steady hand. Because turbulence can feel uncomfortable, but it doesn't mean the flight path has changed. I'll see you next week. Prepared, not surprised.